certain gentleman this morning who will remain unnamed came to me and he says, that sermon title I saw out front, he says it sounds more like a title for a Halloween message than it does an Advent message. Oh, holy nightmare. But I guarantee you, this is an Advent message. Be prepared. Be prepared. Jesus said it. Paul emphasized it. Matthew reiterated it. And eventually the Boy Scouts picked it up as their mantra. Be prepared. You know, the season of Advent, as we said, begins today with its own admonition for Christians to be prepared. But what are we called to be prepared for? What is it? Are we preparing our hearts and our spirits to receive the coming of the Christ child? Or are we preparing for a final month of frenzied shopping, which officially kicked off this past Friday? Are we preparing for holiday headaches and heartburns, economic homicide, endless renditions of the same old dozen Christmas songs, suicidal shopping mall traffic? It doesn't even have to be in the mall. It's suicidal in the mall. They'll run over you with those carts. And the general atmosphere of desperation, depression, anxiety, and rage that accompanies all of these. Caught up in the consumer Christmas, we can easily find that instead of preparing to sing "O Holy Night," we're finding ourselves living out one holy nightmare. Even though the penitential aspect of the Advent season has been thoroughly lost to us in practice, many churches still recall the original focus by clothing the altar in purple with collar of penitence. And 3 of our 5 candles here are colored purple as well. So appropriately, the joy of Christ's impending entry into the world should remain tempered with the recognition of our own sins and shortcomings. Yet somehow we've managed to move from this tempered vision of joy to a full-out celebration of the human ability to completely maul and misconstrue God's intended purpose in the incarnation. We just have utterly destroyed it. Advent has been transformed from a season of preparing, folks, for Christ's birth into a condensed exercise of self-conscious absorption with things and money, grabbing and getting. And it's up to the church to save Advent from being labeled as nothing more than the last, you fill in the number of shopping days left before Christmas. I used to listen to it every morning when I was a kid, getting up, WMMN in Fairmont, West Virginia. Listen to the radio, and every morning Fran Luzall would announce X number of shopping days left till Christmas. Is that the way we see Advent? The answer is not to go back, though, to some austere, purified version of the season. You know, the Puritans were the last to try that on any type of cultural scale. So anyone caught preparing to celebrate Christmas in 18th century New England risked punishment under the law. Regardless of the fact that some reincarnated Puritan divine could have a grand time talking about our modern Christmas party, shouting, "I told you so, I told you so, I told you so." The church cannot pretend that the cultural season doesn't exist. We know it does. We can't pretend that it's not there. But certain changes in attitudes and actions within the church community can and should be made. Among the first transformations that need to occur is the replacing of the commercialized concept of a holiday with the sacred observation of a holy day. They're not the same thing. Preparing for a holiday, that's a day off or a week-long vacation from work. And it does involve sometimes frenzied, kind of slap-happy series of errands and chores, so that when the time comes, you can leave. Holiday break is a break from your ordinary routine, and a time to rather selfishly spoil yourself by focusing on your favorite activities. Golfing, swimming, fly fishing, camping, traveling, reading, or just plain old goofing off. That's a holiday. But holidays also contribute to the compartmentalization of our lives. Our work lives versus our home lives, our responsible, serious, all-business selves versus our fun-loving, frivolous, carefree selves. Holiday compartmentalizes our lives. Holy days, on the other hand, have the opposite effect. Sacred seasons are holy because they nurture us into being whole, complete, and healthy people. Time spent preparing for holy days like Advent should be a time to slow down the wheel of whatever rat race we're usually competing in, and to see just where it is we are headed. Are we pointing toward Bethlehem or Walmart? Which way are we headed? The power and the grace of a holy day spills over everything and everyone that we encounter, preparing us for the holy day of Christ's birth. Should mark us, you and I, as Christians before our colleagues and our friends. And Matthew insists we are to stand prepared for the Lord's arrival, but we're not to stand still. As Sandy alluded to with the children, when the Lord arrives, we should be caught busily carrying out God's will. One of the most beautiful chapters in the Christmas story is the tale of the Magi and their obedience and faithfulness to the point of extravagance. Christmas gift-giving, though, has mutated into a deformed parody of itself. Gift-giving, in fact, is no longer the appropriate term. People now practice gift exchange, not gift-giving. Gift exchange. Consummating our consumer-crazy fixations with a carefully calculated tit-for-tat transfer of goods. With the exception of the Christmas kids, yes, we rarely buy gifts for people too poor to return the gesture. The terrible truth is that we've made Jesus into a shopping mall savior. It's now up to the church to regain custody of Christmas. And we don't do it by complaining, folks, about Starbucks red coffee cups. You don't reclaim Christmas like that. We need to expose the fakery of this holy nightmare for what it is. A garish production with no Christ in it at all. None at all. Two little girls were looking with their mother into a department store window and a nativity scene. A group of shepherds were kneeling around an old rusty cradle. And Mary was sitting beside it with a smile of contentment on her face as she rocked the empty cradle. As the mother pulled the children away in dismay, the youngest girl said to her mother and her sister, "They forgot to put baby Jesus in the cradle." Perhaps more accurately, the baby Jesus was not necessary to attract the maximum number of shoppers into the store. Consumer culture finds only the trappings of Christmas useful for its purpose, not its truth. Christmas is our preeminent national holiday. And it has become our most pathetic Christian holy day. It has. In their book, Resident Aliens, Will Willimon and Stanley Harwas tell the story of a rabbi in Greenville, South Carolina. A friend who used to challenge the values of society around him by telling his children, "You are a Jew. You have a different story and a different set of values." Perhaps, just perhaps, it's time for Christians to say the same kind of things to their kids at Christmas time. Perhaps. Oh, holy nightmare. May it not be so for us this Advent season and Christmas Day. May it not be so. Because, folks, we've a story to tell to the nation. And if we don't tell it, if we live like the rest of society around us and we don't tell the story, no one else will. The story will not be told. So let's stand as we sing. We've a story to tell the nations as we close. Don't remember.